All right. Well, welcome everybody to another session of our AP Academy Professional Development Series. Today, we're really excited to have Kelly Pitts joining us from the Office of, let me get this title correct, Office of
Research and Sponsored Programs.
There you go. Okay. So she is here to talk to us today about the Pivot grant platform. So I am going to hand it over to her just to let you know, if you could keep yourself muted during the session. Feel free to unmute if you have a question, but just to kind of help us with reducing background noise, that would be great. If you have a question, feel free to post it in the chat as well, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the session. So Kelly, you can take it away.
Okay. Thank you, Allie, for inviting me to do this for you guys today. This is really exciting. This is my first Zoom presentation, so maybe some technical difficulties. Please bear with me. I'm excited to be here to talk to you guys today. I do work in the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. I've been here for about 3 years now. Before that, I worked on campus for a TRIO grant, Educational Opportunity Center, and that's one of the Department of Education funded grants that we have on campus. So I was there about 6 years. So I do have quite a bit of knowledge about grants and how they work. So let me go ahead and share with you guys some information. Let's see. Can everybody see this? Okay. So I want to start by telling you guys a little bit about what our office does. We were formerly known as the Grants Office, and then we got retitled to the ORSP. Everybody loves acronyms. So that's the Office of Research and Sponsored Programs. We primarily work with faculty and staff in our office who are either involved in being employed on grants, or who want to write grants, or who have maybe brought grants here from another institution that they may have came from. We are housed in the McReynolds building. I'm in room 118. It's just me here right now. The grants director position is vacant. I report directly to the Associate Provost of Research, which is Dr. Chad Brooks. He also is the Dean of the College of Graduate Studies, so he stays very busy. So our office is dedicated to providing high quality support for research opportunities. We manage pre-award, so that's my area. That's kind of everything that happens on our side of the house before a grant gets funded. So I handle helping you look for grants, helping you submit grants, facilitating a grant contract if you happen to get funded. Also, under our office umbrella is something called post-award, and our grants accountant, who is Jacqueline Milam, and she's in the accounting area. She reports to Benji. They handle the post-award, which is invoicing. When a check comes in from a grant, they take care of the money side of things. Some other things that our office can help you do. Today, we're going to talk about how to find funding opportunities when we get into our Pivot software. The office can help you with budget development and preparation. We have a pre-populated Excel sheet that I'm going to provide to Allie to share with you guys as a resource after this. It's going to help you know, if you do write a grant, you need to know things like what % of your salary you can budget towards summer pay, what % goes for fringe benefits, things like that. That's a helpful resource. We can also help if you're not sure how much you want to budget in a different category. We can sit down with you, read over the grant RFP. That's an acronym you guys need to know. That stands for Request for Proposal. So if you've never written a grant before, that's kind of the announcement that comes out. That's what it's called. We help you with compliance, so making sure you're following the rules of your grant. Allie actually came through our office with a Sears grant, so she knows all about the compliance part of it. That one requires a lot of check-ins and reporting with the granting agency. We can help you calculate something called indirect costs, which is the overhead rate for your grant. Campus-wide, we have a 43.6% indirect cost rate that just is for salaries and wages only. But if you're ever working with an agency that can't honor that, Dr. Brooks can make adjustments to that rate as needed. Our office handles authorization and signatures. So anytime you submit a grant on behalf of the university, it has to track through our office for compliance purposes. We've had incidences where people maybe didn't realize they were applying for a grant. If you just had to fill out a form, we've had some people say, oh, I thought they were just asking for information. I didn't realize that was the actual submission. So if that happens to you, please let us know immediately so we can get a copy of that. We also want to check for eligibility, make sure that no one is applying for something that we really shouldn't be applying for. We have records of all the grants that our office has ever had come through. So if maybe you find a RFP and you're wondering if someone has ever written anything similar, or do we have any examples of something that they might need to see, we can help with that. We can be a communication liaison between yourself and the granting agency. So if you are needing to ask your program officer a question, myself or Dr. Brooks can do that on your behalf. We can route things for signatures. When we aren't dealing with COVID, we try to offer quite a few in-person training sessions and workshops over the semester. We've also had consultants visit before to give talks on NSF grants, Department of Education grants. We've had some workshops where we do beginning grant writing, kind of give you some resources there. Let's see. The other research area I want to touch on is the OSRI, so more acronyms. This is the Office of Student Research and Innovation. So whereas my office, ORSP, deals with faculty and staff, this is the student-focused research office. This was formerly run by Dr. Raj Dakshinamurthy. He left the university over the summer to accept a new position. So Dr. Chad Brooks is also overseeing this office. A little bit about what this office does. They work to connect students with opportunities, and they can provide funding to students for research projects. A lot of times we may have students contact us, or they may contact you as faculty and say, oh, I found this conference that I really want to go to, but how can we pay for that? So this office can fund things like travel. That's a little bit different this year because of COVID, but we do still have some research funds available. So definitely feel free to reach out to myself or Dr. Brooks if a student approaches you about wanting to pursue a project. There's several options for internal funding at Austin Peay. One of the grants that actually just came out was our RSG, or this Research and Scholarly Activity Support Grant. This is an opportunity that's available only to faculty. You can request up to $5,000 in funding for a research project. This is a yearly reoccurring grant. The RFP usually comes out for these late September. Funding decisions are made early to mid-October, and then you have the entire year up until June 30th of the following year to spend those funds. There's also a graduate research support grant. This is through the OSRI office that funds grad students and their research up to $1,000. Like I said, travel is kind of limited right now because of COVID, but we do still have those research funds available. Previously, this was known as the UREF grant. That dealt with that research enrichment funding. We do still have that available. And then with the student travel grant, like I said, travel's not really happening, but there is funding available. If you have students who maybe are attending virtual conferences, that money could be applied towards that. So let's talk about what is research. Research is not always lab coats and microscopes. I know a lot of times that's what people kind of default to, but there's also creative sides of research. Some examples of grants that people have written on campus. We have funded projects dealing with the study of alcohol addiction in rats, choreography and direction of a ballet. There was a production of a documentary film. There's field research on amphibian viruses, influences on gang membership. So research doesn't just have to be tied to microscopes and labs. How can you get involved? You can reach out to our office at any time. Let us know your research interests. You could reach out to us and we could help you team up with a more seasoned campus grant writer. So if you're a new faculty member and you're not sure where to go or who to talk to, our office can kind of help coordinate introducing you to people who may be able to help bring you on board for their projects. If you're intimidated about writing a grant for the first time by yourself, there's several opportunities that require PIs and co-PIs. A PI is a principal investigator, so that's the person that would be in charge of the grant. Co-PIs help that person. So maybe you're not ready to be a PI, but you'd like to help someone be a co-PI. We can help you get connected. Let's see. It's important for students to be exposed to research to help their future career paths. So a lot of times faculty will write students into grants, or they'll write student funded positions into grants. This can be a great way to pursue your research and have help along the way. It's really good for your students as well. There's different types of granting agencies. So there's all sorts of funding available out there. There's different types of grantors. There's association funding. These may be professional organizations. There's different industries that offer grants. Locally, we have grants available from our own community. There's private foundation grants. Different state agencies have grants. Federal agencies have grants. Even with COVID-19, the university was able to take advantage of federal CARES Act money. So that's an example of some federal funding that's available. So let's talk about Pivot. Pivot is our funded subscription database at the university. I'm going to show you guys how to use that today. It's very simple to use. It works basically like a Google search. I'll show you where to find the website, how to log into the website. We can talk about some different things the website can do, and I'll show you guys some informative videos that'll go into more detail about the website. So if you visit our webpage, apsu.edu/grants, under the second tab, the Finding Funding tab, we have our Pivot is linked here.
Hey, Kelly, I think you might
Yes.
need to switch your share screen. It's still showing the PowerPoint.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, you might need to change that to the website instead.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can everybody see this now?
Yep, you got it.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so I got to this from our website. Like I said, apsu.edu/grants, finding funding, and then there's our pivot site. So this is what it will look like when you get to the website. Of course, I have my credentials saved here. For whatever reason, if you go to sign up and you try to use login from my institution, we don't show up there. We don't know why. We've asked several times, can you please add us to that? And they have not done so. So don't look for it there. You have to hit below that where it says create account. This is free for all faculty, staff, and students at the university. You do have to sign up with it using your Austin Peay email address, however. So do not try to sign up with a personal email. So once you get logged in, this is what your screen is going to look like. This, where it says search for funding, is what I kind of referenced as working like a Google search. So if you wanted to search for a different project in your area, I always like to use education as an example because it's so, well, and of course it's not going to work. So let's say that we're working on an NSF project, or you're interested in looking to see what NSF, which is the National Science Foundation, is offering for upcoming projects. We just typed in a very broad subject of NSF, and it brings us up 317 results. That's a lot to go through. This would be a situation where if you're already working with a student, or if you have a graduate assistant, you could maybe ask them to take some time to go through these projects and help you narrow them down. Some of the videos that we'll watch in a minute will show you how to narrow down those funding opportunities as well. So when you find a project that you're interested in reading more about, you can click on it. It's going to bring it up for you. This tells us everything we need to know about the project in kind of an abstract way. I really like how this is laid out because it's not overwhelming. Sometimes RFPs can be 50 pages, and this kind of breaks it down for you in a really concise way, so you don't have to spend that time reading through 50 pages. So this lets you know what the funded amount is going to be, who is able to apply. So this is a quick way to see if you're even eligible to apply. We are an academic institution, so we'd be eligible to apply for this. Let's see. This does not have a deadline posted yet, so that's something else. Pivot filters this to where if something is already passed, it will not show you the opportunity, but this lets us know the deadline hasn't been decided yet. So this is a project that is going to be open sometime in the next year. It's possible it has a rolling deadline, and the deadline for last year has passed, but this year's upcoming deadline has not been decided yet. So I don't want you to feel like you're going to waste your time on this with all these projects where, oh, the deadline, was a week ago. It takes that out for you. Let's see. Outside of sciences, we can try to search for different areas. Some of these will say things like foundation or college art association. Those are those different types of grantors that we talked about. So this lets you know this award would be capped at $15,000. So if the project that you're needing funding for would exceed that, then this would not be a good one for you. This has something due called a letter of intent This is very common in the grant world. What that means, and our office has plenty of examples of these. So if you ever needed to see some of these, this is where you email the sponsor or the program officer to let them know my organization and myself are interested in pursuing this opportunity. Some grants will not let you apply if they required a letter of intent and you didn't submit one. So that's usually made very clear if you have to have a letter of intent or not. Let's see. Go back.
Oop, you got muted, Kelly.
Thank you.
Gotta love Zoom meetings.
Yes. This is kind of what Pivot can do for you all, can give you the ability to identify and connect with funding opportunities and other users, both locally and globally. Some of the videos we're going to watch will detail how this works. Pivot pre-populates all of the employees. Here we've been told it's supposed to update that monthly. So once you create your account, if for some reason you don't see yourself in the list of Austin Peay users, please let me know so we can let Pivot know that you need to be added. So it combines a comprehensive database of funding opportunities that has over $33 billion of funding, and there's over 4 million profiles and growing. With the profiles, this can help you if you have a really specialized research area. You can search for other researchers who have similar credentials, or if you're working on a project and maybe you need, you have to have an external co-PI and they need to be a statistician, can help you search for people like that. So it really can help you get connected. That tells you how to get to Pivot, how to create your account. These are some of those informative videos I told you all about. I'm going to attempt to play these. Can everyone see this?
Turn it up just a little bit, Kelly. It's a little, can't hear it. think it went away. Kelly, do you want me to try to share it and see if it'll play from my end?
That might be better.
Okay. Or we can drop the link to it in the chat box as well. That might
Okay,
be helpful.
we'll try that.
And then that way people can bookmark it and come back and watch it later.
Can you all see me? Okay. All right, sorry about that. Am I back? My screen went black. You all see me? Okay.
Yeah, you're good.
Thank you. Thank you for bearing with me. So Pivot is very simple to use. If anyone has any specific questions about how it works after this, we could meet in person, spread out in the grants office conference room, and really kind of go over it more in depth. I did want to let you guys know that Pivot is not the end all be all when it comes to searching for opportunities on campus. If you have not used the resource grants.gov, I would encourage you to also search for grants there. That's the federal repository for grants. And you can be sure that anything posted on grants.gov is okay to pursue. You do have to be leery if you're just using Google by itself. You have to watch out for scams and things like that. Granting agencies, especially if you're applying for them on behalf of the university, you should never provide your social security number or any of your personal banking account information. We actually had an issue a couple of years ago where a faculty member was scammed by what they thought was a legitimate opportunity and provided their social security and personal bank account information. So do not ever do that. Any reputable funding agency will not ask you for that information. TBR is another resource that frequently posts grant opportunities. That's what Allie's grant was through. And Dr. Chandler, your area has a Sears grant this time too for international education. So we're very excited about that. There's an opportunity posted right now through TBR that we have several teams of faculty working on. It's an LGI open resource grant. This is due tomorrow. But I do know of at least 4 or 5 teams from different divisions that have 4 or 5 people each working on them on these grants. Thank you, Allie. Does anyone have any specific questions that they want to ask about grants or about how Pivot works? Yes.
So I work in the theater department, and a lot of the grants that I would be interested in getting would be to be doing basically projects for me.
Okay.
And a lot of those granting organizations require a fiscal agent. Is that something that we can do through your office?
Yes. So when you say it would be a project for you, you would be looking for funding to help you do something in your area of expertise, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yes, our office can help with that. You would be applying for the funding as a part of Austin P.
Okay.
You could still receive funds yourself as a part of that. That's
Okay.
a question.
Cool. And then that also is for, like, we could also apply for funding to go to conferences and
Absolutely.
training workshops. Okay, cool. Thank you.
Yes, we would love to help you with that. Anyone else have any grant questions? Everybody's so quiet. I feel like these Zooms can be so awkward. I know I feel like I'm talking to myself, even though I can see you guys there.
I know I've posted that meme that says Zoom meetings are like Dora the Explorer. You know, you ask the question and then you stare expectantly at the screen waiting for people to respond.
I saw a meme that said, "You're on mute" is the quote of 2020.
Well, if I could just chime in about grants, if you're
Sure.
someone that is not really familiar with grant writing, or you've never submitted a grant before, I don't know where everybody is and their expertise with that. The first time I ever did a grant application, I was absolutely terrified. I had no idea what I was doing. I still somehow got funded. I'm not really sure.
It was a great proposal.
But so and that was several years ago, and now I've gotten, I think I have 4 or 5 grants at this point under my belt that I've gotten. So and each time it's just as terrifying as the first time writing it. But don't be intimidated by it. And also, if you do go through APS, through the Office of Research, which I highly recommend, they hold your hand through the whole thing. So they're a great resource to use. So Kelly would email me. It was almost like you had ESP. The second I would start wondering about something, I'd get an email from Kelly saying, "Hey, let me help you out with this." So don't be intimidated by it. Don't be afraid of it, because they're there to help you, and they do a great job with that.
Absolutely. The other thing I would like to mention, if you do pursue writing a grant and you happen to not be funded on your first attempt, that's very common. So please try not to get discouraged. That doesn't mean you wrote a bad grant or that you should never write a grant again. Actually, we've had several instances where faculty have not been funded the first go round for whatever reason, and we've been able to use the readers' comments or the feedback we receive from the funding agency to tailor it to exactly what they're looking for the next time. So that has happened several times, especially with federal grants, where maybe we didn't get it the first go round, but that next cycle, we take those comments and they are able to get funded. So please, please don't be discouraged.
Any other questions for Kelly?
Yeah, Kelly, I have a question. So I applied for that RGS grant and I didn't get it. So is there some way that I could know the comments or, some help that what is it that, I could do differently, or where is it that I lost it?
Okay, yes, that's a great question. So the Research Council, which is a group of faculty that are appointed by the provost, they were the readers on those grants. Typically in the past, it was decided that the comments, for whatever reason, were closed, so they were not providing feedback. This year, especially, I know we've had several requests for feedback. Everyone wants to know, what should I have done differently? So I know they're working on making that information available. Of course, we worry with it being internal reviewers, it's a little more complicated. No one wants, hurt feelings or anything like that. We're working on a way to make that information available. I know you could try to email Dr. Brooks personally and see if he could provide that to you. But for next year, they're making it where the comments will be available so people will know. And I'll go ahead and tell you that with those, it definitely has nothing to do with the proposal itself. A lot of times it's just the lack of funding that's available. That internal pot of money is only about $35,000. So at $5,000 a pop, that gets drained very quickly. But that's a great question.
Yeah, and sometimes even if you do get funding, if you don't get the maximum amount, I know I've done that with my Tennessee Arts Commission grants. I've gone back and said, hey, I got a reduced amount. Is there a way that I could increase that the next time I apply? So that's another thing that you can do as well.
That's a great point.
Great questions. Anybody else have anything while we have Kelly as a captive audience? All right. Well,
maybe Kelly, I can ask one more question. Okay,
Sure.
is there a way that we can see a successful grant, the research support grant? I mean, an example of what was successful. If I can't know where I failed, at least if I can see what was success.
Yes, I could email you an example of one that was funded. Absolutely.
Okay.
I will make a note to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
Marissa, I see you unmuted yourself.
Oh, no, I was
You've
just
been
going to
called
tell, yeah, I was just going to tell Kelly, great job. I went
Okay.
ahead and signed for the grants website, and I was a little confused at first too, because I thought that Austin P would be on that drop down and they weren't. So I created a new account, and everything worked fine. So you're doing a good job. I know it's harder when you're a little short staffed. So like a lot of us right now. So, but thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for being here.
Yeah, Kelly, one last question, and this is really the last one. So I was thinking, is there a group that meets where, we can get to hear some senior, writers who have been successful? So we get to, some feedback, and they can guide, people like us who are just getting into this or first time. I mean, this is our first year here at APSU. And writing a grant by ourselves. So if we know, because this grant that I wrote, I came to know about it late, and then I was not able to show it to anyone. So I just submitted it. So I would have liked if someone else, some senior, researcher could read it. So I could have got some feedback before I submitted.
Absolutely. That's a really great idea. We do currently have that research council that I mentioned, and I know that is filled with individuals who have written grants in the past. I would be happy to see those meetings are on Zoom. They're once a month. I would be happy to see if you could attend one of those meetings with us.
Okay.
And anytime in the future that you're writing something and you would like it to be reviewed by someone on campus, if you send it to me, I can find a faculty member to review it for you.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect.
Kelly, does your office ever offer any like general grant writing workshops, like kind of tips and tricks about it?
We have done that 3 times in the past. We have brought different consultants here to the university to do those type of workshops. Obviously, this year we're going to need to maybe see if that can be done over Zoom. But yes, in the past, we have had those on campus. I know it was complicated for a little while with how information could be distributed campus-wide. It was kind of used to be able to email whatever you wanted to all of faculty and staff. And then I know that was stopped for a little while. So it may have been difficult to get the word out about those workshops in the past, but we have done that, and we do plan to offer those in the future.
Awesome. Yeah, if and when it does happen, if you can send our office,
I absolutely will. Yes.
we can forward it out to all of our adjunct, part-time, and temporary instructors.
That'd be great.
Okay, awesome. So that's something that maybe in the future, I know that our office in the past has worked directly with students with completing grant applications, and it's really helpful. So, and I know sometimes, even if we're not students, we can be just as lost as they are when it comes to grant writing.
Yes.
Well, great. Well, thank you all so much. This has been really great information, Kelly. Thank you so much for taking
Thank you
the
for
time to
having
share
me.
this. And everybody, thank you so much for all of your questions that you've asked. I did want to highlight our next AP Academy session. So actually next week during the AP Academy time, we are going to be doing a presentation on our QEP annual report. So it's all about the university QEP, which is tied to our accreditation. And we're going to be presenting on that during this time. And that information will be distributed to everybody in the coming days. So if you would like to log on to that and hear about our wonderful QEP and all of the work that we have been doing over the last 5 years with that. And then we have one more coming up this semester, another professional development series session. It will be on November 20th. So right at the end of the semester, November 20th at this time. And that will be led by myself and Dr. Ashley Spearman. And we will be joined by our Provost Cronley. And we're going to do just kind of a semester wrap up. It's been a weird semester. So we're just going to kind of talk through that, answer any questions that you all may have. We'll have Provost Cronley there. So that will be a great opportunity for you to get some good information from her as well. So thank you all so much. As always, if you have any questions or need help with anything, you can always reach out to me in my office and we are here to support you. So, all right. Well, everybody have a wonderful weekend and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good weekend.